Thank you so much for bringing me.
Thanks for being here.
Why have you decided to take it upon yourself to protest the continued stay of IGP Egbetokun as Inspector General of Police when the Police Act of 2024 amended allows the occupant of the office to remain and complete the original 4-year term granted under Section 7 and 6 of the Act? That's the defense from the Nigerian police.
So you can have acts, you can have executive orders, but any one of them that works that's at variance with the Constitution, it's null and void and of no effect. And I am not a believer in the Nigerian Constitution. Let me make that clear, because it's a military constitution, and I've always said that that document needs to be taken out of existence, part of the problem. But what is clear is that for anybody who is in the civil service, 35 years is the number of years you're expected to retire, from the date that you join the civil service. You're supposed to live after 35, when you reach the age of 60. And that is what is stipulated for policemen and people who are in the security services and other civil servants. Just so that you know that this is the rule, other policemen under Egbetokun have been retired in the last 2 months, all of them. And I know this because when I was arrested for calling for his removal the first time, we discovered a lot of policemen who are supposed to have retired since 2016, 2017. They had gone in and forged and altered their service records. And all of them now have been retired, over 500 of them, quietly retired. So Egbetokun's course, the people who entered the police the same year as he was, the last batch retired March towards 2025. So the Galandachis of this world, who was the guy who arrested me, has retired. So what is Egbetokun still doing in the police force? If they are so interested in him as one of their political allies, they can take him to customs where there's room for a non-custom person to lead. But even then, I will oppose them, because when people are retired and tired, you can give room for fresh hands. The other part of it has to do with fairness, that the Nigerian police force has so many officers. Over 350,000 people are in the police force. Are you telling me that out of these 350,000 people, people who have worked in different departments, training, logistics, mobile police, you can't find a person who has not retired to lead the police force? That's the problem, and it's not only applicable to the police. The same thing is happening with immigration. The woman at immigration had also had her tenure extended twice. Now,
but why are you not as vocal against immigration and like you are against the police? Because people think it's almost like a personal vendetta against Mr. Egbetokun.
So let me admit that I have a personal vendetta against him, because he was the one who in 2024, and some of you don't pay attention to this, so I've been fighting for his removal since 2024, when we had End Bad Governance protests, and Egbetokun sent the police to go and kill people, and then arrested and began trying minors for treason. That was handled by the police force. People like that have no place in a sane society. People who are so callous to go and remove children from the streets of Kano, bring them to Abuja. You saw them, some of them malnourished, some of them almost dead, half dead.
When you say that Egbetokun sent people to go and kill, sent the police to go and kill people, what do you mean?
He's the Inspector General of the Police, the one who gave the order. He's the one who gave order for those minors to be arrested and brought to Abuja from Kano and Kaduna, and began trying them for treason. You saw that.
So that's for the minors, but not an outright order asking the police to kill people?
No, an outright order to kill people happened also in August of 2024.
Do you have evidence of that?
Of course, there's evidence. The dead bodies are the evidence we have in Kaduna, in Kano. Why is everybody pretending that this didn't happen?
Evidence that the orders came from the IG?
Of course. Anything that's carried out by a police officer shooting at people directly with live bullet comes from the top hierarchy. They typically don't do that. If they don't, then they will be condemned, arrested, of course. If you act out, outside of the orders given to you, you are punished and shown to the public that this is not how the police operates. But he ordered them. The other part, which is very important, is that Another election is coming. Credibility for the police is important. You cannot have a police IG who says to you, my life changed the day I met the president, now be in charge of an election, especially when his tenure is expired. And that is suspect, that they want to use him for a special purpose in 2027. You know, I'm not a big fan of the next elections or election cycles, but people are calling and asking for the next election to be at least transparent, free, and credible. And you know, one of the major organizations responsible for organizing the election in Nigeria is not even INEC, but security agencies, particularly the police, because there must be a police or two in every polling unit.
So what kind of reforms would you suggest in the Nigerian police?
I'm not for reforms. I've always told you. So Nigeria has passed the stage of reform.
So you think if they remove IGP Egbetokun, the Nigerian police would be better?
No, of course.
Yeah, so what changes do you want to see in the Nigerian police?
The changes, I want to see a brand new police force. You know, a police force that's not only about policing, by the way, that also takes care of policemen and women. People who work for you to keep you safe every day deserve, you know, pension. They deserve great salary. I've always said it that Nigeria is just a counterintuitive space. Otherwise, you have a police officer guarding banks who are themselves poor. You have police officers who are taking home 57,000 naira per month, and they are protecting millions of bullion vans on a daily basis. That's foolish to give somebody a gun and not pay them. You have just employed an armed robber or a potential one. So I am for that. But the policing that needs, you see, all the security issues we're having in Nigeria today is as a result of the breakdown of our police force. Otherwise, you will not have soldiers doing traffic work on the street. Soldiers have no business within Nigeria trying to help you fight terrorism and Boko Haram and Lakwa or kidnappers. It's the job of the police. But what I have discovered in my foray into this struggle for and against a terrible police force is that the command structure of the police has also broken down. Trust me, you can go to Abuja, headquarters of the police, and a junior officer can dictate to a senior officer depending on how close he or she is to the IG or the DIG or AIG. You know, so if you don't handle all of this to the bottom, you cannot have a police force that protects you. But the policemen also need logistics. They need support. I give an example that there are police stations that have up to 500 men. Do you know how much their quarterly allocation is? 30,000 naira. How do you spend 30,000 naira to manage a police station that has 500 men? So at the end, you find all the policemen, majority of them are just like, what they are doing on the road is to say, look, I want to get my gratuity before my pension. That's what they are doing. And it is because everyone is doing it from the bottom to the top. In fact, the bottom ones work harder than the top people, because the bottom ones will have to go and raise money on the street, extort, harass, and they have to give to the ones at the top who are sitting pretty in their offices, practically doing nothing. So it's not just a problem of the character of the police, is also a problem of how to fix how these policemen are well remunerated, compensated. There's nobody in the police force who should die and have their family driven out of the barracks the following week. You know, so if I were president of Nigeria, a policeman would have a life insurance, because they are putting their life on the line. If they die, they should not get less than 20 to 30 or 50 million naira to help their family, and you know, some sort of pension to keep the family going, because these people have put their, and I'm not patronizing police, because there's nobody, maybe there are only a few people in Nigeria that have been beaten up and roughened up and tortured like me by the police. Before anybody knew about SARS, I was detained at SARS in 1998 in this Ikeja. You know, I know all the areas up until when I left in 1999, from area A to G, F, and the rest of them. I know there are more areas now. So the police has not been my friend, but that is not to say that we should not be talking about their well-being, because without their well-being, you can't have security in the country. There are 350,000 policemen in Nigeria. I think they have the largest in terms of population of all the security agencies. So you abandon that, you're just putting yourself through perilous times in terms of security.
But do you by any way, by any chance, have the support of some of the police officers in this push that you're doing in terms of ensuring that there is a reform, a change in the police system, they get more than what they deserve? And why is it that the retired or ex-police officers are not also talking?
Oh, ex-police officers are talking. You see, the way the police force or the security forces set up do not allow them to freely speak. In fact, the only reason why you can figure out how policemen are supporting you these days is through social media. There are very many on social media. And my own research is that when it comes to the police, Nigeria Police Force, they are more on Facebook. And the most senior officers are on Twitter, of course, with fake names, on both accounts. So, but they monitor all these things. I am not looking for their support because I'm not planning a mutiny. Whether they support me or not, it doesn't matter. I was tear gassed last Monday by the same policemen that I've been fighting for. But I can tell you that since we started this struggle against Egbetokun, over 1,000 policemen have been promoted. Yes.
Now we're watching,
and they're still having
of
promotion exams.
We're seeing visuals of you at the protest in front of the police headquarters in Abuja. How did that go, and were you able to present a formal letter to the representatives of the Inspector General of Police? And have you also, at any point, raised this issue of your stance against the IGP and also police reforms with Nigerian Police Service Commission or the National Assembly?
All right, well, let's hold our thought. We'll have you answer that question shortly, but we have a video that we want to play. Let's take a look at this video and we'll come back to the conversation.
That's the purpose of our economy. The Nigerian economy right now is not an economy that is designed for the Nigerian people. Right? It's an economy that is just what I would call esoteric. It has a special definition, it's designed for few individuals. Yes, to look as if it's some kind of special economy. But when you look at it, there's no substance to it. There's no value for the Nigerian people within the Nigerian economy. That is why when you ask our leaders what our economies are doing, they don't have any statistics to show to you locally. It's always some kind of external statistics or definition. Oh, this is what the World Bank said we're doing. This is what the IMF said we're doing. The IMF just told us that inflation has gone down. But you go on the street, the inflation has not gone anywhere. You are not paying people wages, what we call living wages. You are paying them minimum wage. The difference between living wage and a minimum wage is a minimum wage is a legally defined amount of money you are supposed to pay workers. A living wage is a minimally defined amount that a worker can survive on. So that's our first definition of how this economy should work, is paying workers what is legitimately theirs in terms of minimum wage. And that's why we define and say we're starting with 100,000 naira. Minimum wage for workers, Nigerians.
Standard.
Yes, that is. If you want to buy WAEC form for your child, you can pay for it that month. If you want to buy jam, you can pay for it. If you want to pay some fees, go to hospital, because we will also provide, free healthcare, universal health coverage for our people. It's going to be a welfare system, and that's where the economy is going to be for our people, because the money is there. We had a speaker yesterday. Sorry you couldn't wait to speak. Femi Falana.
Yeah, I was there. I heard him.
And you heard him speak. And Femi Falana was saying that 60 billion was lost to one regulation in the oil sector.
Imagine.
The regulation is simple. If you got an oil block some 10 years ago, you got a waiver not to pay royalties for 10 years. If you dig up to a certain level.
No.
But so we had to go dig up that video and bring it back. In addition to what Benga has asked, that video, I took time to watch that as well. Surprisingly, some of the issues you raised are still ongoing till now. So in addition to the question Benga has asked, if you've been able to reach out to the
Nigerian Police Service Commission or the National Assembly?
My position is not driven by bureaucracy. Those are bureaucracies that already know about these issues. In fact, as I mentioned to you, the Nigerian Police Service Commission has been trying to retire some senior police officers since 2016 who ought to have retired but altered their service records. it wasn't until I was arrested and there was that hoopla, I think in February, that the Service Commission was able to go into a meeting the day after I was arrested and take the very difficult decisions they've been working to take for over 4 years to retire all those policemen. They're all retired now. People like Bernard Igwe, the guy who is in charge of legal in the police, all of them have all been retired now. Over 500 police officers were retired just at once. But there's one more man that needs to retire. That's the IGP. And that's why I said you are occupying the office illegally. And I want to look at Nigerians and tell you there is just no way we can continue to have illegal activities happen in our system, condone and endorse it, and expect the country to improve. Just you're talking about, you just showed a video of me and
I wanted to bring that
whose record is being banned again
now.
So this tells you that Nigeria is not making progress. Who is still banning records these days? In fact, I'm happy the record is banned because more people are going to find out about it and listen to it. It's just, when I was in the NYC in 1995 in Yola, I went to the studio of Radio Nigeria, and the only thing on the wall was Fela's music and a ban on it. It said, under no circumstance, I remember that. I hope somebody can get a copy of the poster. Under no circumstance should you play Fela's music on air in this studio. Fela died in 1997, I think. And as of today, in San Francisco alone, there are 35 bands that play Fela music. I was part of a group that did Fela on Broadway, not official, but I consulted for them. And that show was supposed to go for, I think, 13 episodes. It lasted for almost a year. They kept asking for more, Fela on Broadway. It became a sensation. I think, I saw something on Fela Kuti's page recently of a whole ensemble of Fela musicians in France. Everybody's singing Fela music, and here we are trying to kill Fela, kill his music and his message. In fact, the first thing the government did when Fela died was to take over his original shrine. The shrine where Femi wasn't a race. He has a shrine inside where they call Computer Village now. If somebody was sensible in government, when Fela died, the entire Computer Village could have been cordoned off and made. People would be coming there. It would become a source of tourism and inspiration for others. They converted the place to a church, I think, at first, and then maybe it's now a Computer Village shop. Fela's shrine is the biggest.
I think he's Nigeria's #1 cultural ambassador. Just to add to what you said.
Yes.
I went to Chile with Fela Kuti a few years ago, and I was in the middle. It was one of the moments I'll never forget in my life. We're in a place called Villa Alemania in Valparaiso in central Chile. And I know in that place, nobody would know who the Nigerian president is or who has been anybody. And they were singing Fela's music verbatim in the middle of the night, stadium.
Wow.
Yes, it's so, but look at what they did to Fela. Same thing, police beating him up. I remember one of the most, depressing videos I saw of Fela before he died was the NDLA harassing him. Bamayi. On live TV, it was NTA. Like, oh, what is that? Igbo, why are you smoking Igbo? And Fela was like, it's not Igbo, it's Nigeria's natural grass. But they were just harassing, they were trying to disgrace him over weed. And look at where cannabis is today. It has become also a global, most powerful revenue-generating plant.
And you've said that if you're president, you're going to do a lot with it, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Are you still going to run for presidency? But anyway, that's a later conversation. Yes. Because you said you're not interested in 2027. Elections don't...
I'm interested in today, Today?
Yes. Let's go back. What if are you planning to call for a one-on-one with the IGP, just to meet with him and, many have said...
If he's ready to retire, I'll take boxes.
Many have said you should just meet with him.
No, if he's ready
to express your grounds that you have, rather than, call him out.
If he's ready to leave, I'll take a bunch of boxes, I'll go to his office and help him pack. I get him to go home safely. I can do that. But one-on-one to discuss illegality, that's not my job.
So what's your next step? with regards to the IG after that protest? Or how do you plan to continue?
We'll continue. I don't have to disclose that now, but we'll keep doing this until he leaves. You know, it's for me. You know, it's like you tried to raise earlier. Maybe it's personal. It's not personal grudge. You know, I've seen a lot of policemen who beat me almost to death, and when they retire, they're like helpless. Some policemen that try to kill me, I've helped them before. When I found out after this, the guy who was the area commander of the police unit on Western Avenue around Surulere, he was one shot guy. He was mean to us when we were at University of Lagos. He always deployed. He would come and beat you up personally, pick you up. And when he retired, you know, somebody reached out to me that he couldn't afford medicine. And
that's a shameful reflection of what
and I'm not shaming him,
he's
but
experiencing, because you shouldn't have served your country and not be able to live a decent life, which is in a way part of what you're pushing for. But I also want to go back. You mentioned being tear gassed on Monday. Let's talk about the Take It Back movement and the advocacy against the Cybercrime Act. How far are we on that journey, and what do you think should be the next steps from here? Or why is it important to even have that conversation?
Well, you know, we can't have democracy and remove one of its legs. And one of the legs of democracy, practically speaking, is ability to speak and choose. I have referred to a comedian, Advocacy. He made a short speech one day. Video. You know, it sounded funny, but it was very, very apt, where he said, well, if the military show up today and take over power from civilians, which I would never support, he said, the first thing they will say, what are you people not speaking up for us?
Come out.
You know, if they go and clamp them up, you know, put them in jail, like they are doing in Niger, you know, where they've kept the former president in jail, everybody will say, where's Sowore? Where's Falana? Where's Shrika? Tell them to speak for us. Anytime, by the way, which is interesting, anytime these people have problems amongst themselves, the first person they try to reach is us. Speak for us now.
Civil society.
Civil society. You know, or they'll reach us journalists. You know, I'm a lousy journalist. They'll say, Sowore, let us put this thing on Sahara Reporters, and they have nearly killed me.
Interesting.
They have collected my land. Let me give you an example. Ondo State, there was the Attorney General in Ondo State. He was the one who prosecuted one girl at the time during NSAS and put her in jail, pregnant. 3 days ago, he reached out to me through a top because he can't come to me because of this despicable past, that they want to destroy his house in Ondo State, Akure Alagbaka Estate. Sowore not going to help us. I said, but we were trying to reach you the other day when you were doing injustice to a child. Yes. He fought me at that time. He was a former activist. You know, all these activists, the moment they get into power, forget it. They lose their mind. You know, I don't want to mention his name. But I was like, I told the person, so now he believes in the power of our speech and our credibility to fight for them. So you will always need good people. So the best thing you do, if you're in power, empower greatness and goodness in your society, because you're going to need it.
I want to ask you a question.
Yes.
Some people have the perception that, you know, you can't see any good in government, you don't highlight anything positive. Are there any politicians that are doing things right? Your brother currently serves with the Ondo State government. Apart from, does that affect your relationship in any way? And is that true that you don't like all politicians?
You know, if I wanted to be pleasing people, I wouldn't have come out as Sowore. I would have come out as an ice cream, so I can make people happy. But if there was anybody that is doing good, I don't even need to be the one talking about it. There'll be enough people saying this person is good, to the point that if I'm the one saying that the person is not good, I'll be overwhelmed by those who feel and understand that they are good. So if anybody wants people to be praising them, they should do good and see how many people will come up for them. But he wanted to mention about my brother. I don't want to skip that. My brothers have been doing, my household, you know, where I have 15 brothers and sisters combined. Yes, my dad had over 21 kids. 15 of us are still alive. I'm the first child. You know, don't ask me if I know their names. But yes, 2 of my brothers are in Ondo State. In my household, they're in different political parties. Our household is most open-minded. So one of my brothers is in APC, one of them is in PDP.
You had one of them on the show as well.
Yes, you must have met them. A lot of them are lawyers, you know, my younger ones. So you always come across them. But when it comes to the principle of fighting against government, we always butt heads. You know, I won't be surprised if one day the Ondo State governor says to me, says to you guys, he said, I want Sowore's brother to come and confront him on your show. And I'm praying for one of them to come.
We're going to set that.
Yes,
we'll set that.
Mr. Omoyele Sowore, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for
I'm sure that we would expect to see more protests. People would say that, I mean, we've been seeing some of the reactions on YouTube as well. They're saying, oh, you're the one championing the revolution. People wonder what keeps motivating you, even with the blackouts, the restrictions, the tear gas.
And the fact that they seize my passport they've seized my passport again, so I can't.
Anyway, we look forward to having you again, and thanks for always honoring our invitation.
Thank you.
We will go on a break, and when we come back, we'll be talking about a very critical